Thursday night, Krug Show, and look who's in the house. The great Sterling Bennett from 95.7 The Game, and we love Thursday nights. We love Thursday night streams. We got a lot of intriguing Niner stuff to talk about. Is possibly a big move in the pipeline coming for the 49ers. We'll talk a little bit about that. There are some really interesting things bouncing around with the draft getting closer. Everybody's trying to kind of tighten their focus on exactly who they want. We'll do the same tonight. It's the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. All right, start this thing already. Off and running Thursday night on the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in everywhere. They're in Florida, Madera. They're open 7 days a week. They're opening later this year in Petaluma. We're big fans. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. It's all amazing, by the way. Great restaurant, great people, and the title sponsor of the Krug Show. So thanks to Pig and a Pickle and Damon and Mary, who are outstanding people. And also, as we get things rolling on this Thursday night, we love Thursday night streams. Really fired up to be here on a Thursday night. Thank you to Novato Chevrolet, voted best dealership by the community on Nextdoor app. 2025 rated top car dealership by Carfax, family owned for over 50 years. The only place I will buy a Chevrolet is Novato Chevrolet. Go see David, their top sales guy. He will take care of you. He absolutely will. He's a great guy. And tell him Krug sent you. Novato Chevrolet. And also, thanks to Habas Law. We'll talk more about them later on. But Habas Law is covering pet adoption fees at the San Jose Animal Care Center this Saturday, March the 28th. That's right. Every dog, every cat, every bunny, everything, every squirrel, every hamster, whatever you want to adopt, you just show up with a good attitude. They're paying the fees. That is cool. I mean, don't you think? I mean, that is really cool. Saturday, that's at the San Jose Animal Care Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And thank you, Alomar Marina. If you want to float while you dine on the Sacramento River, check out alomarmarina.net. They're at 5999 Garden Highway. They're open Wednesday through Sunday. Try the shrimp tacos, the lobster roll. Man, I had a burger when I was there. It was fantastic. Voted best specialty cocktails in Sacramento. Float while you dine. All right, we're off and rolling. Okay, there's a bunch of things we want to get to. You know, I do want to get to Najee Harris because there was the mentions of Najee Harris, and I saw a bunch of people weighed in on that earlier this week. I did float a thing to his agent, Doug Hendrickson, who's a buddy of mine, and I just said, hey, Dougie, you know, what are the Niners showing interest in Najee? Because there was rumors to that end, and he got back to me and said, not yet. So if they are showing interest, I think the rumored interest is people just kind of putting two and two together, knowing that the 49, he's from the Bay. I grew up a Niner fan. It would mean a lot to him to be with the Niners. So we'll see, and we'll talk about that in a few. But I want to start with one of the interesting stories of the day, and that is that the Cleveland Browns and the Niners have something in common. They both have superstar linemen that I'm not sure if they're going to be on the team this year. Myles Garrett for the Browns, Trent Williams for the Niners. Last offseason, Myles Garrett, Sterling, and by the way, as we get things rolling, the great Sterling Bennett in the house. Give it up, folks, for Sterling Bennett.
Thank you.
What the fuck was that? That's all Sterling Bennett gets? All right.
They're too kind. Kind.
It's ever since we took on the studio audience, the show has not been the same, but we love you, the studio audience. All right, there you go. Okay, so let's talk Myles Garrett for a second. The one thing the Browns and the Niners have in common that's interesting. Now, I've been anti-Myles Garrett. People have said, hey, what do you think of going after Myles Garrett? What do you think of going after Trey Hendrickson? What do you think of going after Max Crosby? And what's my answer? Always been this offseason. They're not that one guy away, right? So that's the way I was looking at it. I want to get younger. They're not one guy away. I want to see them trade back in the draft and build in number. But they don't. That doesn't seem like their thrust. And what we're seeing now in Cleveland is Cleveland basically moved some Myles Garrett money around. He was going to get a bonus and it was due on like the 25th of March. And instead they moved that bonus to August 30th. So they moved that bonus. But last offseason, Myles Garrett demanded a trade. He wrote a letter to the Browns, I want out. The Browns appeased him by giving him more money. They signed him to a 4-year, $160 million extension, $40 million AAV, and they were going forward. But then they bypassed Schwartz, his guy for the head coaching job, and Schwartz has resigned. The one thing we don't know is how Myles Garrett reacted to Schwartz not getting the job. Instead, it went to Todd Monken, and how he's reacting to them. Basically, Schwartz telling the Browns, go take out, fly a kite. I'm out of here. So we don't know. For all we know, Myles Garrett wants out. See, everybody's been very hush hush about everything, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he said to the Browns, get me the hell out of here. You passed on my guy, because he was an advocate for Schwartz to be the head coach. They gave the job to Monken, and I don't know. I'm not saying, he's under contract right now, but they had some bonus money that was roster bonus money that was due him on March the 25th. It was $29.2 million. But both sides agreed to move it back to 7 days prior to week 1, which is August 30th. It's an option bonus. So now it's not until September. Well, Schefter said he immediately called the Browns and like, are you guys planning on trading Myles Garrett? And that the Browns immediately were like, no, we're keeping Myles Garrett. We're absolutely not trading Myles Garrett. So that's what he went with. Hey, the Browns aren't trading Myles Garrett. But he said the first thing that you think of when teams are moving option dates around for bonus money, especially significant bonus money, is that there could be a trade looming. Because right now, if the Browns paid him that 29.2 and then traded him later, they don't get to recoup that. But if they push it to August 30th and they trade him on draft day, the team that they trade him to will pay the 29.2. You see how that works. So that is interesting. So even though the Browns are on record saying, no, Myles Garrett's not going anywhere, we don't know. I mean, it makes sense that Myles Garrett might be unhappy. He was unhappy last year, and now they dumped Schwartz. Now Schwartz dumped them, and they bypassed Schwartz. So I would say there's a chance that Myles Garrett wants out, and the Browns are just keeping it hush, hush. And the Niners may know that. So it is interesting. Cleveland has also been a strong advocate of changing the rule that allows you to trade picks 5 years into the future. Some people think maybe because of Myles Garrett and they want some kind of down the road compensation. But while this is going on in Cleveland, you got the Niners over here and they're building cap space. They've got $18 million in cap room. If they can restructure Trent Williams' deal and keep him, that opens up another 20. So they get roughly $40 million in cap space. Myles Garrett cost to whatever team trades for him in 2026 is relatively, paltry sum. They could squeeze him in right now. Sterling, 9.14 mil is his 26 salary cap hit. So he also has a full no trade clause. So he kind of controls the situation. He can kind of go where he wants to go. Hey, Myles, we're going to send you here. No, I'm not going there. Oh, trade's off. He's got a full no trade clause. So he can kind of call his shots here. And then you think of it from the Niner perspective. They have Bosa. John Lynch's stated goal is we need to improve the defensive front. They're coming off of the worst defensive line year ever. They had 20 sacks. They were 6th worst than the next shittiest team, which was the Jets. They're horrible rushing the passer. They have Bosa coming off a 3rd ACL. John Lynch has stated at the combine, our number one goal is to get the defensive line. So now they're staring at TJ Parker, Cassius Howell, and all these options. And every single one of those guys, and we can go right down the list, they all have a flaw. It's Zion Young. He's got a problem off the field. It's Cassius Howell. He's got short arms. It's like it seems like every single one of these rushers is like still has a little bit of a glitch to him, and I don't know which one is going to be good. So the other thing that's interesting here is that, what would the trade compensation be? Well, it'd probably be, Micah Parsons kind of a deal, right? 2 number ones and Kenny Clark is what they offered. All right.
More.
Well, I would say it's got to at least start there, right? That's the baseline.
Like you're talking 3 first-round draft picks, I think.
Well, here's the bottom line on this. Not if the Browns have no leverage and Garrett's pissed and wants out because of Schwartz. But if everything's hunky-dory, you might be right. He definitely is a better player, and than Micah Parsons. You're talking about the best defensive player in the NFL right now. But here's the other thing going on here. The Browns are one of the only teams in football whose quarterback future is not really set. They have Shador, and they want to give Shador a full run. And what have they done this offseason? They've rebuilt their offensive line across the board, except for the left tackle spot. Now, I don't know what the price tag would be, but the 49ers also moved the bonus dates around with Trent Williams and claim they want to sign him. But as Schefter said, it also always reeks of, are you going to trade him? And what about the idea of trading the best offensive lineman for the best defensive lineman in some kind of a package deal? The other thing that's going on here, as I just mentioned, is that the Browns don't have their quarterback of the future. And so from what I'm hearing, they want another first-round pick in the 27 draft. The 27 draft, according to the scouts, may be the best quarterback draft ever, with maybe as many as 8 quarterbacks going in the first round. Arch Manning, Dante Moore from Oregon, Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss, Jaden Mayava, CJ Carr, Julian Sayin, Brendan Sorsby, I think is at Cincinnati, Lenora Sellers, South Carolina. They're saying 8 of these guys may wind up going in the first round, and the Browns most likely want 2 number ones in the 27. They want multiple ones in 27. So they're going to be able to be the team and get the quarterback that they want. So I think that's what they're building. I really do. And I think the 49ers might be able to get this done for Trent as part of the package. They may keep Trent and may be able to get this done for draft capital. But you look at from the 49er perspective, even if you offered 2 1s and a 3, which would be still a screaming deal for the Niners, you're getting a 3 back in 27, most likely for Mac Jones' departure. So you're going to have multiple 3s, and then basically you're getting Myles Garrett this year instead of Cassius Howell. So you want to go defensive end in the first round anyway. So now you're getting Myles Garrett. So really, you're just trading 1 first round pick because you're going to recoup that 3rd with whatever you get probably back for Jones. You may even be able to recoup the 1st, depending on how this year goes. And if a team needs a quarterback, somebody may offer you a future number 1. So depending on the circumstance, what do you think of the concept of going? I kind of look at John Lynch right now in that same spot that Les Snead was in, where Les Snead took over the Rams, and his number 1 picks were Michael Brockers and Tavon Austin and Alec Ogletree and Greg Robinson. Yeah, he got Aaron Donald and he got Gurley and Goff, but he basically traded every single number 1 from 17 through 2023. Traded 7 first-round picks in a row because they weren't hitting. But he was trading for guys like Stafford and OBJ and Jalen Ramsey, and they won the Super Bowl. I kind of feel like the Niners, who have the 3rd youngest defense in the NFL currently, they really don't need – they need to get better on D, but I don't know if they really need to get younger on D. They need to get better on D fast if they want to contend. And a Myles Garrett would make sense. And I just think when I'm looking at, the guys, the first-round picks they're going to be looking at the end of the first round this year, Cassius Howell, arm length issues, Zion Young, off-field issues, Caleb Banks, foot issues, R. Mason Thomas, arm length issues, Malachi Lawrence, what kind of competition did he play? There's question marks on every one of these defensive ends, it seems like, in the draft. And there's no question on Garrett. Then you mix in the fact that the Eagles, the Seahawks, and the Rams are 3 teams that are rumored to be kind of sniffing around Myles Garrett. And I just think the 49ers have a vested interest in not seeing Myles Garrett in Seattle, not seeing him in Philly on that line. And they're not hitting in the first round to a degree where, trading a couple number ones for Myles Garrett is not totally crazy. And maybe you don't got to trade 2 number ones if you're willing to move Trent Williams. What do you think of the idea of Trent Williams for Myles Garrett? What do you think of the idea of trading multiple number ones? If you don't move Trent Williams, maybe multiple number ones or some package of Trent Williams and multiple picks for Myles Garrett. What do you think?
Myles Garrett is a player that you move the world to acquire, no matter what it takes. That's the one you want to plug into your defense. He's a culture shifting, he's a defense shifting type of player that you want to talk about improving your sack total. You want to talk about remaking your entire defense overnight. Myles Garrett is that type of player. Now, what is the asking price? What is the cost? You mentioned Micah Parsons, that being the baseline for trade talks to start with. I think it could be higher than that, and I wouldn't be shocked. He's coming off a Defensive Player of the Year award. Again, he's not slowing down. He broke the sack record this past season, or at least tied it, I think. He is, by all intents and purposes, the best defensive player of the last decade next to Aaron Donald. He's just that good. And if you plug him next to Nick Bosa, next to Michael, really, you could trade Michael for all I care if that's involved in getting Myles Garrett. He's just somebody that if you know he's available, you will move heaven and earth to make sure he's on your team and also make sure your opponents don't get him either. So I would do what it takes. Now, the question when it comes to Trent is Trent, who is near 38 years old now, is he going to say, yeah, I'll go play in Cleveland? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Trent would say, I'm just going to go retire. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm not.
That is the wrinkle. It's hard to picture him going to Cleveland, but maybe money talks. It would have to be some mountain of cash. But you're right. It makes more sense. But maybe Cleveland could flip him to the Chiefs, or something like that.
Sure.
According to the reports, the Chiefs have been the team, which, I don't understand why the Chiefs, they have Josh Simmons. They seem like they're pretty, that they have Kingsley Sumatea or whatever at left guard. Doesn't seem like they have Jalen Moore at the other tackle spot. Are they going to, I don't know. I mean, obviously the Chiefs are looking to get back on top and win the whole damn thing. And I'm looking at their offense. They have added Kenneth Walker, so that gives them a real good back. And I'm sure they're looking at their offense going, look, if we could add Trent Williams, we could maybe get back there. I think Trent Williams is in decline. He's 37. He'll be 38 in July. He's one of the best left tackles in the history of football. He ranked 12th in pass blocking grade from PFF last year, second in run blocking grade. But I think there's some regression there. I think there's some regression. I don't think it's not like, oh my God, it's unacceptable, and it's life. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's natural. But there does seem to be some distance between the 49ers and the desire to go down the dead cap rabbit hole, which, you know, inevitably is coming if you do a big money long-term extension. It doesn't seem like Trent is going to give them any kind of, discount of any kind. Not that he
Right.
should, but I don't think he's of the mind to do that. And then it's just a matter of, do they want to pay him, or do they try to move him? The talk is that there's a robust market. Jason La Canfora says the Niners and Williams remain far apart in contract talks to redo his deal. Shanahan said, "Hey, we think it's eventually going to get done. We love the guy," but the way the last deadline wasn't really a deadline. They just kind of moved it to the draft. The draft is not really a deadline. There's no real deadline. But they've made a deadline, the draft, and it kind of makes me think that they may have promised Trent, "Hey, look, we're not going to drag this all the way out to July. If we can't come to some kind of an agreement on a contract extension by draft weekend, we'll, consider sending you somewhere where somebody will pay you what you're seeking." So that would be my guess. I mean, what's your read on that?
Yeah, I think the Niners realize that they don't have a pivot point. It's Trent or nothing. Like, you can't draft a guy in round one to replace Trent. They realize their best chance of winning is with him being on the offensive line, blocking Brock Purdy's backside. And I think, kind of steering things back into the Myles Garrett trade discussion, let's say in some world things do come together and the Niners trade away Trent Williams in a package, whatever that package may be for Myles Garrett. My question would then become, who plays left tackle in 2026? Is it Vidarian Lowe?
Vidarian Lowe? Yeah, I think it would be somebody that they would take in the first round. Now, I'm looking at the first round right now.
But would you have that pick if you're trading for Myles Garrett?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Trent, maybe Trent Williams in your 27 first.
Okay.
And a third. Or, basically keeping that pick at 27. And then either drafting Blake Miller from Clemson, who's on the board there, or drafting Max Ianachor. If it was me, I would go with Ianachor. Yeah. I really would. I mean, I do love the guards. I think the guards are very safe. Emmanuel Pregnon, Chase Basantis. These are very safe draft choices. I mean, these guys are going to be very solid NFL guards. But you can't take a guard there. I think Ianachor is the guy that I would take. I haven't seen too many prospects like that. I mean, if Chris Foerster is a great offensive line coach, and by all accounts he is, how could he not turn Max Ianachor into an all-world tackle? The guy's 6'6", 330. He looks like he is. This guy didn't even play. I don't know if you know the story for Ianachor. He didn't even play football till he went to junior college. So that's pretty freaking rare. But I mean, the body on this guy, I mean, unless Chris just thinks he's a circus with his footwork and his hands and all that. But I mean, you're talking about 6'6", 330, looks lean, fast, incredible feet. That guy who just looks like an absolute no-brainer. To me, Ianachor, probably the safer pick would be to go with the 4-year starter from Clemson, Blake Miller, if he was there. But you might have your choice. If you could somehow move Trent in next year's 1 to the Browns, because I'm telling you, the Browns want that 1 in 27. That's the one that they're really after. And they may even want more than 1. They may want the Niners first, second, and third, or something like that in 27, because it's all going to be about their ability to use some kind of draft pick haul to get the quarterback that they think is their guy. I think that's what they're pointing to. So, would you be willing to give up some 27 draft capital, to make the move? If you could get the one thing is Myles Garrett's 30, Trent Williams is 38. Now, tackles play longer, they both. I mean, Trent Williams has what, 2 years left, maybe. Myles Garrett maybe only has 4 years left. Even though he's younger, it's because it's a different position and guys don't typically play as long. So, in that, when you look at it that way, it's not totally crazy that they could be dealt for one another. The Browns have spent the entire offseason building up their offensive line, and the Browns did go out in free agency and sign another defensive end. They signed AJ Anesa from Buffalo. So I don't know. It is interesting. The 49ers need to find a young tackle. They also need to, figure out what they're going to do with Trent, and they got to figure out what to do with the defensive line. If they could somehow turn Trent and their first round pick into a young offensive tackle and Myles Garrett, I think that would be an incredible way to go.
Would you be open to the thought of whatever picks are involved, just and take money off the table? Would you be open to dealing Nick Bosa for Myles Garrett?
I would. I don't think they would be. I think
Okay.
they're all in on Bosa. But the thing about Garrett that's interesting is that if you could get him, you might see them transition from Bosa to Garrett after 1 year. If you look at the way Bosa's contract is, if they could somehow get Myles Garrett, this could be the year that they have the two of them. With next year, they move on from Nick. Just the way the contracts are penned out.
It also solves the problem of the Browns having so many offensive linemen. They have 2 first-round draft picks this year. They pick early enough to get a tackle. If they want one enough, they may say, we don't even want Trent. Give us Nick Bosa and give us some first-round draft picks. Now, like you said, the Niners may say, never mind, the conversation's over, but I'd almost entertain, and I kind of think San Francisco should, in that case, over Trent, entertain, if that's on the table, trading Nick Bosa for Myles Garrett and something else, because that to me is the most profitable for them. And I think it makes them better with less injury risk down the road.
The real reason, I think, the sobering reality of this situation is that because Garrett is such a dominant player, and because the Rams, Seahawks, and Eagles sound like, especially the Eagles, I would expect to bid. That's, you want to make sure that you're in that deal flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it shortens your window, but guess what? You haven't been able to prove that you can pick the right players. It's also kind of interesting if you look at the mock drafts. If the Niners were to send Trent Williams in this package deal for Myles Garrett, now granted, we're just bandying about ideas at this point. The Browns pick 6th, and a lot of the mocks have them taking Spencer Fano from Utah. But who's staring him right in the face is David Bailey from Texas Tech and Reuben Bain from Miami. They're slated in this tankathon mock to go 7 and 8 right behind them. So they may just be looking at Bain and that unbelievable flexibility and his unbelievable motor and just say, you know what? Let's get the offensive lineman. We'll take Reuben Bain. We'll replace Myles Garrett with Reuben Bain. Myles doesn't want to be here anyway now that Schwartz isn't here. We'll get Bain at 6. And then, later in the draft, we'll do whatever, maybe a receiver or whatever they're going to do. But I if they were going to go get Trent, I could see that. And then they also have multiple picks in the 5th round. If the Niners, if they were going to try to, the Browns do, if they were going to try to entice the 49ers, but that would be a bonanza. I mean, if we saw Myles Garrett in any kind of a deal to the Niners, that would be a bonanza. If we saw Myles Garrett in a deal involving Trent Williams, that would be a bonanza. But both monster players here have had their bonus money delayed into the future by their existing teams, which always screams trade. It always screams trade. Now the Browns say, no, we're just clearing off cap space, but it's lying season. This is the
Also, for
lying
what?
season.
For what? Like you're rebuilding. Who else you paying?
I kind of feel like the Browns like to do these things where they just get, I think even though Myles Garrett has been a fixture there, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Myles Garrett quietly said to them, "Get me the heck out of here," because he was loyal to Schwartz.
Yeah.
And so if the Niners have any intel that they know that, then the price tag for Garrett could be lower than we think. You still got to outbid the other teams, but it may not be 3 number ones. Let's just say that. And his off-season demand pre salary extension, may just come right back. So we don't know what the the leverage point is on the Browns front. But we do know that the Browns have rebuilt their entire offensive line. They traded for Titus Howard. They signed a couple other free agents. They still have Dawan Jones at left tackle. And they have Quinshon Judkins. And they have Dylan Sampson. And they have Shedeur Sanders. And it's pretty clear that the idea is get a great offensive line together and just run the heck out of it and protect Shedeur and then see what you got at the end of the year. If you think Shedeur is good enough, go with him. If you don't, pour it all into the quarterback. So I kind of think Trent might be on their radar, but the thing that's hard to envision, Trent Williams agreeing to go to Cleveland. That's the one.
Well,
that's the kicker, because Garrett, I bet you Garrett would want to be on Chris Kaceric's wide 9 opposite Nick Bosa. Are you kidding me? I bet you he would love it. And I bet you he's the perfect guy for the Niners with all the young D linemen they have. Get a veteran on that defensive front. And he would, there is no better player that you could add if you're the 49ers. But it's the Trent part. It's if Trent were part of this deal going back, and I do think that makes sense for the Browns, because I do think they're trying to build this awesome offensive line. But, Garrett makes sense for the Niners as far as his game, his price, maybe even his price tag. And also you don't want him to be in Seattle. That's the biggest nightmare. Could you imagine if John Schneider somehow got Myles Garrett to go with what they have up front? That would be a very depressing draft weekend if Seattle wound up with Myles Garrett. No question in my mind.
If you could
go ahead.
If you could pick any team out there, we talked about the Niners, Philadelphia, Seattle, anybody, and you can try to get into the mind of Myles Garrett, do you think the Niners would even be at the top of, let's say, his top 3 destinations? I don't think they even would be right now. You have Seattle, you have Philadelphia. Who's that third team? Is it San Francisco? Is it somebody else? Is it Kansas City? I don't know. Like, who do you think would be that third team he might want to go play for?
You always got to think about relationships.
Right.
Maybe Mike Evans makes a phone call. These guys played together at A&M. Do they go A&M, A&M, A&M? 3 editions with Kirk and Evans. But I would wonder if a guy like Evans would pick up the phone, just be like, "Hey, man, let's do this." I don't know. I don't even know if they have a relationship. But
yeah,
Chris is first of all, Niners are an iconic team. They're always in the mix. They got you got a quarterback that I think the players respect a lot more than the media. So I just think they're viewed as a contender, and a guy like that probably would look at them and go like, "Oh man, you put me on that team, we're not going to finish dead last in sacks." If you're the 49ers, what you're looking at all these D linemen, you're hoping that they'll be the next Myles Garrett. And now you get the Browns sitting there going, "We'll trade Myles Garrett." You know what, John Lynch, you may want to copy what Les Snead did and just be like, "Hey, look, no more Tavon Austins. Let's trade. Let's use a couple of these picks on some veterans, and win a Super Bowl." That's where the Niners are at. If they can make the right series of 4 or 5 maneuvers during the draft involving veterans and draft picks and that kind of thing, they could be a Super Bowl contender. If they have a disaster draft, they could fall out of being a Super Bowl contender. I think they are a contender right now, but they're not a top contender. They're more of a second tier contender, in my opinion.
Yeah,
going into
I
the
agree.
draft. But if they could get a Myles Garrett, if they could get, get some, 3 or 4 more pieces of the puzzle, I think they definitely could be a Super Bowl contender. And Garrett would be huge, absolutely huge get. All right, let's talk about a couple other things here. The 49ers have 30 visits for KC Concepcion, Omar Cooper, and who was the third receiver?
Denzel Boston.
Denzel Boston for Washington. And our buddy Tony Pauline has told us that Chris Bell from Louisville they may consider him even in the first round at 27. And the talk about Chris Bell is that he's had the surgery, he's doing the rehab, and he's going to be ready, they think, for maybe training camp, but definitely for the season. So it's not like he's going to be like, well, you may not have him until halfway through. No, it sounds like Chris Bell might be really ready to roll, and he is awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, what does that say, though, about Pearsall? Now, a lot of people are getting annoyed by me because I've said that Pearsall, I think, is going to be traded. And that's not me saying that. That's just sharing with you what I heard one of their insiders say to me late in the year. I don't know if it's going to happen. I understand he's on his rookie contract. I understand it's rare. But if he has a down year, he's not going to be worth anything. And you could argue, and from what I was told, there was a miscommunication of some kind, and he didn't play in a game late in the year where the Niners thought he was going to give it a go in a pregame, on-field testing of the injury, and he just showed up saying, "Oh, I didn't think I was playing." So I heard that rub some people the wrong way. So we shall see on the Pearsall front. I don't know. I don't have that verified, but it is odd that you have right now Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Ricky Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, 4 receivers. Most teams go with 5. You still have Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins. That's 6. Not to mention you've got 3 other receivers on the roster, including Junior Bergen and the special teams receiver. What's his name? Forget. Anyway, they used him late in the year. What do you make of the fact that they're still looking for receivers that seemingly would go in the first round? Are you surprised that is this a smokescreen? Do you think the Niners are going to go receiver in the first round? Do you think those guys, receiver candidates, may fall to the second round? Do you think they like a different receiver that they're not working out, and they're intentionally kind of staying away from? I love the Ted Hurst kid from Georgia State. I mean, I know it's Georgia State, FCS, whatever. I don't care. He's awesome. And I really like Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. I do think, Matt Miller's right from ESPN, who says Jeremy Bernard is a perfect fit for the Niners offense. There are others, but I like Hurst. I like Bernard. I even like some day 3 guys like Dylan Bell and Cole Wilson. Bell from Georgia, Wilson from Baylor. So, I look at receiver as almost, I don't want to say a non-need, but since there are going to be some good undrafted receivers, and that you already have what you have right now, I don't know that receiver should be the priority. I think I might not take a receiver in the first round. What do you think? Where is receiver on the Niner list?
Yeah, I think it's towards the top. Mike Evans coming off of one of his very few injury-riddled seasons. That's a problem. He's going to be 33 during training camp. So if that continues, you lose your ex-receiver during the year. That's an issue. Ricky Pearsall has not been healthy for a single season so far. So right there, you have 2 guys who have major, or at least somewhat major, injury concerns. Jacob Cowing has never been healthy throughout his entire career. Jordan Watkins didn't play all but 20, 15 snaps last year, which, whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, that remains to be seen. And then you have Christian Kirk, who, despite, I think, him being a reliable veteran player that can be in the right place at the right time, also has injury concern. The Niners have to find more playmakers that are 21, 22, 20 years old that can stay healthy. And they have to find some explosiveness in the offense. George Kittle's probably not going to be ready by week 1. Christian McCaffrey has, 400 more touches to his name now coming off of last season. And none of your receivers currently are yak guys. Evans is a contested catch, go up and get it, bring it down player. Christian Kirk really isn't a yak guy. Pearsall isn't that player either. So I think when you're looking at the people they've talked to, Chris Bell, Omar Cooper Jr., Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston's different than those guys, but the 3 of the first ones I named are all yak after the catch players. And they fit the offense in a way that they don't currently have. So I think the Niners have to find the next wide receiver. I don't think you can go into the year relying on the current crop they have. There's a lot of high potential, sure, but there's also a very low floor in that room. So you have to find somebody else, whether it is Cooper Jr., Boston, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, Bernard. You can go the kid from Missouri in around late day 2, early day 3. There's so many options out there. This receiver class is very deep, but
would you go receiver in round 1? I mean, that's the question. I mean,
yeah, I would.
You have right now, though, you could line up with Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall, or at defensive end, you can line up with Bosa and McKell, both coming off of very serious injuries. So with no Bryce Huff, I almost feel like the edge is the priority, just because they need the bodies. But there's Joey Bosa. They could go a lot of different routes, a lot of different ways to cut this. But I think the edge is a vitally important spot. John Lynch went to the Georgia Pro Day over the Stanford Pro Day. Who do some people, one buddy of mine was like, Krug, who do you think he was there to see? And I think it's Kristen Miller. Kristen Miller, the Niners always go defensive tackle. Kristen Miller is a really underrated pass rusher, and he's strong as hell. He's got a great motor. He was buddies with Mykel Williams. He only has 2 career sacks, maybe 3 career sacks. But he's 6'4", 320, and he's got great movement ability, high motor, healthy body. Lynch is tight with Kirby. That one, and then the other one I saw an interview that Kirby did where he was talking up CJ Allen in a way that was, I mean, Sterling, he was amazing. I mean, you would have swore he said that basically that Kirby's like, my son was rehabbing in the Georgia facility and he had to be there every day at like 6:45. And he's like, every day we got there, CJ Allen was already there and working. He's like, he's a relentless worker. And if he's a relentless worker at that great athleticism, he's a little on the stiff side. He's not the most loose athlete I've ever seen. But there's a lot of Patrick Willis there, because that's what Patrick Willis was. He was an awesome athlete, played in the SEC and dominated, 3-year starter like CJ Allen. But he also was a relentless worker who just, first guy in the building, last guy to leave, just absolutely an unbelievable tone-setting guy. And CJ Allen in a lot of these mocks is there at the end of the first round. There's a belief in some personnel circles that if you want a great player, draft a great young player around guys that you think are great existing role models, and that will become a reality. And now with Greenlaw and Warner, you've got 2 guys right there who are just absolutely the perfect role models. I'm thinking maybe Kristen Miller, maybe CJ Allen. I don't know who he was there for. I don't think it was Monroe Freeling. I really just don't believe that, because I think Freeling's going to go way too high for the Niners. But I kind of believe that the Niners, love the Georgia prospects. There's a bunch of good ones too.
Yeah, it could have been Oscar Delp, the tight end. Could have been Zachariah Branch, the receiver.
Could have been Branch. Yep.
You mentioned, putting young players around role models. Well, I mean, pick 27, Denzel Boston's right there. Mike Evans is also in your building now, and they both play the exact same position. You want a younger version of Mike Evans, albeit I won't make that comparison. There's a real easy translatable skill set there for both those players. So,
are you concerned that Boston hasn't run a 40?
No, I'm not. I don't look at him as a speed guy. That's not his game. I'm not worried about how fast he runs. He's a contested catch monster, near 60% contested catch rate last year at Washington. He's going to run digs and goes and slants, and that's it. He's going to be your X guy and be your boundary player. And that, yeah, I mean, and you think about a red zone offense that has Mike Evans on, whether playing slot or the outside, and Denzel Boston on the outside too. Like, you got two guys where Purdy, who you watch the way Purdy plays, he wants to be aggressive downfield, but also likes to high point the football and gives his guys a chance. You got Boston and you got Evans on the boundaries. It's game over for your quarterback, who can hopefully have another big season. But, I think one thing that's kind of tricky in all this is we don't know what a Raheem Morris defense looks like with the 49ers. We have the Rams defense, we have the Buccaneers defense, we have the Falcons defense, but we don't know how much pull he has in that room on draft day. We have an idea of what it could look like, but we may get there on draft night and they shock us all. And, whether it's Cassius Howe or somebody else we're not even talking about yet. But I do think what the prototype, what they want is that speed rusher to pair with Micah Williams. Well, that takes like 10 guys off the board in the first round for them. Zion Young is not that guy. TJ Parker is not that guy. You're fitting more of the Romello Heights and the Malachi Lawrences and the Cassius Howells on day 1 and day 2. So it's really intriguing to watch what they do this year, because there is some unknown despite having a semblance of an idea. We really have no idea what Raheem Morris wants on that defensive line.
No, you're absolutely right. And then also Raheem Morris is going to have a big say on the DBs, and we don't know if maybe he wants to draft some DBs. I mean, I got no problem with them trading back and drafting D'Angelo Pons. I'm looking at the corner market and the way the board's going to fall in the first round. And I think there's a very good chance that when the Niners come up on the board at 27, they could be staring at a board that has Chris Johnson from San Diego State. He's just a very, very good prospect across the board. I mean, he's strong, he's fast, he's tough, he's productive. He tested amazingly. His film's amazing. He's just a very clean, checks every box prospect. He kind of reminds me of this year's version of Quinyon Mitchell. He's a very safe prospect. But then there's Colton Hood from Tennessee. Brandon Cease from South Carolina is one amazing athlete.
Yeah, he's awesome.
The guy that I would probably draft is the Miami kid, Keontae Scott. I mean, Keontae Scott just had a workout the other day. He ran 4.25. He had a 43-inch vertical. He had a pick 6 in the national championship game. He's a great player. I mean, the guy is a great player. He kind of reminds me of a more explosive version of Brian Branch. He's like a hitter. He's a corner. I'm not saying he's Ronnie Lott, but I mean, he's like a corner, nickel, safety.
Yeah, safety.
This guy could be I think Keontae Scott could be an all-pro free safety. He could be, right now, he would be a nickel. He could be their nickel. He can play the boundary. I mean, he literally can play any spot back there. He's physical. He's tough. He's a big play guy, and he tested like a superstar. He's going to be on the board. Davison Igbenusson, the rangy, long-armed corner from Ohio State, really talented. He's going to be on the board. So, I mean, you're talking about a group of corners that, and we're not even talking about there's other guys too. I mean, the nickel corners, the smaller guys, D'Angelo Pons, Avion Terrell, Keith Abney from Arizona State, Chandler Rivers from Duke. All these guys can really play, and they're all slated to go between like 22 and like 50. And that's where the Niners are going to reside. So and then JSN just signed a big deal. The Rams are talking about picking up AJ Brown. They already have Devontae Adams. He scored 14 touchdowns. JSN and Rashid Shaheed in Seattle. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson. Eagles have great receivers. I mean, you got to be able to play coverage. The key to coverage is coverage. You got to have guys who can do it. So do they go corner? It seems like some of those safer picks are the defensive backs. So I mean, it's the whole thing is really interesting. Who is your favorite? If I said to you, receivers, let's go back to the receivers for a second. Who is your? You can have two receivers in this draft. You can have You can have a day 1 or 2 receiver, and you can have a day 3 receiver. Give me one receiver you want on day 1 or 2. Give me a receiver that you want on day 3.
Yeah, on day one, I think one of my favorites is Omar Cooper Jr. I think while Jordan Tyson, if healthy, is like the best receiver in the entire class, there's a lot of injury concerns there. I think Omar Cooper Jr., because he doesn't have the injury issues and history, I think he is a top 3 receiver in this entire class. I think he's phenomenal. I think he fills every role San Francisco needs. Talk about yak going over the middle. He checks every box. He packs a punch after the catch. He's a physical guy that wants to lower his head. His routes are exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants. So at 27, if it's Omar Cooper Jr. on the board, I'm almost running that pickup to Goodell and saying take it. I just think he's phenomenal.
There's a lot to love there. He runs 4.42. He's really strong. He blocks like a tight end. The guy's tough as hell. I mean, yeah. And there are the only downside of Omar Cooper is he doesn't have that just take the top off kind of trait, and he's a little bit, workman-like, but he's still pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, and then you talk about, day 2, kind of day 3 wide receiver. I'm a big fan of Elijah Surratt from Indiana. He's more of that kind of Jawan Jennings X wide receiver. He's shorter than Jawan is, but that big slot Shanahan really likes. I know Mike Evans can play there, so it depends on how you want to deploy those two guys, but I'm a big fan of his. I do like Kevin Coleman Jr. out of Missouri a lot, but he's more of that slot receiver, kind of that Ricky Pearsall type of guy. So I'm not sure how they see him, but you mentioned maybe a trade still in order. But Coleman can separate like anybody else in the class, basically, especially on day 2, day 3. But if you keep going down the board, Chris Bell, obviously, he's the big yak guy off the torn ACL. But one person I will say I don't think is talked about enough is Skylar Bell from UConn. Now, there's a massive drop problem.
There's a lot of people talking about him recently this last couple of weeks.
And he had 3 straight seasons of a 14% drop rate. That's scary. That'll piss off Kyle Shanahan a lot, as it will the viewers and Brock Purdy. But you talk about a guy that fights for every ball. He can set up defensive backs. He's going to be 24, so an older prospect. He's got that third gear, though. You mentioned Cooper Jr. not having that third gear. He's got that third gear. Let's put on the Rockets and let's go to work. So there's always some kind of boomer bust with guys on day 3 and going on into rounds 4, 5, and 6 and 7. But big fan of those guys. I think there is one player like kind of deeper. I think talk about Josh Cameron from Baylor. He's 6'1", but he got 34-inch arms and 10 and 1/8 inch hands. He can catch everything. His catch radius is wide. He's a long dude, and he's dense. And he wants to go up and get it. And he's dynamic after the catch, I think. And if you want that kind of late, let's say round 4, maybe they trade back in some capacity, I could see him being somebody Shanahan's like, I don't know what he'll be in the NFL, but I can work with that as my 4th or 5th wide receiver in this offense.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good names. I really like the guy from Louisville. I like Chris Bell. I think he's really dynamic. You're talking about a 6'2" receiver who's 220 pounds, and he just runs away. You don't see, you're seeing lots of highlights of him running away from coverage. So, I mean, I think he runs better than people think. I think he's much more of a vertical threat. I also love Ted Hurst from Georgia State. I mean, he's just everything about him, the frame, the high ability to high point the ball, the toughness, the hand strength. He makes some great catches. And I just think he's going to be for like a guy like Brock Purdy, that's the guy you're looking for in the red zone. You don't have JJ, you don't have Ayuk. You need a strong-handed, big receiver who can take some hits and make some amazing catches. You have Mike Evans. In a lot of ways, Ted Hurst would be a phenomenal guy to learn from Mike Evans. He has some of the similar traits. So I love Ted Hurst and Chris Bell at the beginning of the draft. And on the day 3 of the draft, I love the Georgia kids. I love Dylan Bell from Georgia. I think Dylan Bell is just really, really good. And I like Noah Thomas, the A&M transfer who went to Georgia. He's a big receiver. He's 6'6". He's 200 pounds. He's sometimes it takes the bigger receivers a little while to put it together, but there's a lot to like about Noah Thomas. I mean, big and rangy and tall, and I think he could be a very, very good red zone threat for Brock Purdy. So, there, sometimes you see sometimes the receivers hang in bunches. To me, this year, at the three schools where I just love the receivers, I love the Georgia receivers, Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, even the other guy, the big 6'5", Colby Young, Zachariah Branch. I really like the Georgia receivers, really like the Baylor receivers, as you said. You name the guy Josh Cameron, but they also have Cole Wilson, who's just an absolute burner. And I love the LSU receivers. LSU's got some underrated receivers who can really run. They got four guys who can absolutely run. Chris Hilton Jr., he can absolutely, run. There's no question about that. You got Xavion Thomas, Aaron Anderson, and Barryon Brown. And all of these guys run sub 4.4. I mean, LSU's got a freaking track team. So I definitely, and their offense just stunk. And so I don't think you can evaluate Nussmeier. I don't think you can evaluate that tight end, Bauer Sharp, who I really like a lot. I don't think you can evaluate any of those receivers. So go take another look at the LSU wide receivers. They were really, really good. Okay, let's get to Najee Harris. That rumor came up this week. As I said, I sent a note to his agent. His agent said the Niners hadn't contacted him yet. But then a lot of people giving their opinions. I think Brian Peacock said play him at fullback. That's what I'm saying. He's not a Niner running back. He's not fast enough, but he is smart. He is relatively young. He's got fullback size. He could probably do all of the things that Juice does. If Najee wants to be a Niner and he's willing to commit himself to learning all of the nuances of being a fullback / tight end / special teamer / H-back, specialty back, I love it. I think he would be a very nice addition. I think he would be a great guy to have in the locker room. He'd be a great guy to have in the team. I think he'd be, short yardage back, power back, but I see him as a fullback. It's kind of, you got to have more speed to play running back in this offense than what he has at this point, maybe ever. But he doesn't have whatever speed he had. He's coming off a major injury. He's going to sign for the minimum, but I'd sign him. I'd bring him in and I'd try him at fullback. Well, what do you think of the idea of Najee, who played with the Chargers last year, coming home and playing for the Niners?
Yeah, it'd be a great story, right? When Antioch High School, home of the Panthers, it'd be a nice East Bay thing for him. I don't know if he'd play if he was playing fullback. I don't know how they would deploy Juszczyk or Najee Harris together. Knowing Kyle, he'd be like, I don't know what to do with this guy. Just kind of there floating around the roster. But I think Najee would welcome that. He seems like somebody who has had so many injuries. And every time he has an opportunity, it starts off pretty well. Then all of a sudden, like in week 3, it's over. So I don't know if the Niners are looking for a running back number 2 behind Christian McCaffrey. I know he said they wanted one or he wanted one. They let Brian Robinson go to the Falcons. They seem to like Jordan James a lot and have him be the running back number 2. I don't think they really love Isaac Guerendo. His vision's too poor, but I also don't want Kyle to draft a running back in what is one of the worst running back classes we've ever seen of the last 20 years. They're terrible. So if you're saying, would you rather sign Najee Harris instead of drafting a 4th-round running back, then yeah, I'd be for it because I don't want to waste a pick knowing you only have 6 of them and you have to hit on every single one this year to become a real contender. So yeah, in that case, sure. Bring Najee in. If anything, he's a camp body. If he gets hurt, you cut him, no loss, and then you can kind of wash your hands. But I would not expect or I would not lean on Najee to be an actual contributor knowing the injuries he has. But I say that, and they signed Dre Greenlaw and Mike Evans, who were both hurt last year, and they're both going to start in some capacity. So who knows?
Give me a day 3 player that you're really excited about in this upcoming draft. And I'll go first. I can go first if you want to give yourself a minute. I like Mikhail Kamara from Indiana,
Okay.
the defensive end from Indiana. This guy could have came out last year in the draft, and he probably would have gone earlier than he's going to go right now. Instead, he came back to Indiana for a sixth season under Signetti. They win the national championship, and now his draft stock's not quite as high. But this guy is just the guy. He's an awesome athlete. He was a former walk-on at JMU, James Madison, and I mean, goes from a walk-on at James Madison to closing out his college football career as an undefeated national champion. He had a blocked kick or punt in the game, right? He's played the most snaps of any draft-eligible defensive lineman. 19 games he played with Indiana. And, he did a nice job against Caden Proctor in the playoffs. He did a nice job against Isaiah World in the playoffs. Francis Mauigoa, he went up against him in the playoffs. He did a nice job. So, man, to me, this guy's 6 feet, 260, and I think this is going to be a steal of a mid-round pick.
Yeah, I can tell you, I don't know if he'll be there on day 3, but I think Emil Wagner from Notre Dame as a tackle. He may go in round 2 or 3, but I think if he's there in round 4, you're just excited because we don't know what the plan is behind Trent at tackle. And if Trent wants to be here for 2 more years, I would take Emil Wagner, sit him for 2 years, and see what happens, right? He played right tackle in Notre Dame, maybe in McKivitz leaves in a year or two. Maybe he slides over and plays right tackle. But I think, he's got 34.5-inch arms. Arm length is such a big deal in today's tackle class or in the last couple of tackle classes you saw in the Super Bowl. Will Campbell, his arm length is a big problem for him. So when you have bigger guys that can move and have production behind them, this last year at Notre Dame, 342 snaps, 7 pressures, and 1 sack allowed. Now, the reason why I say sit him for maybe 2 years is because he did struggle against some of the better pass rushers in football. So sit him for 2 years, let him learn behind Trent. Maybe you have your future left tackle behind him, but also moving down the order, I think BJ Payne from Kansas State, the safety. I don't know what the Niners want to do at safety. I know Raheem Morris values the position. Matt Barrow said that he doesn't think that the Niners or Raheem Morris believe the safeties they currently have aren't good. I think one of them is not good. 2 of them are still young, trying to figure things out. But I think BJ Payne, he's 6'3", 206 pounds, 33.25-inch arms for a safety. That's massive wingspan. He runs 4.4 speed. He runs around. He can cover the deep. He can be a roaming safety. I think he can be a player for them. He can play in the slot, the box, and also free safety. So it really depends on what you want to deploy in your draft strategy. And we all know that George Kittle's probably not going to be there for week number 1. So if you want to take a tight end, I think the guy from Michigan, Marlon Klein, I think being from Germany, coming over and almost playing no football in his entire career, his athletic traits are off the charts. And if you want to sit him for a year or 2 or have him learn behind Kittle and Tunges, I think he can become the next athletic freak of a tight end. But again, that's all is maybe some buts, but that's what rounds 4 through 7 really are.
Yeah, no doubt. I like that. I like that name as well. Klein is a big, rangy, talented tight end. And they've had a couple good ones now in back-to-back years, and they do a nice job at developing the tight end. This was a report. The Niners met with SMU running back TJ Harden at his pro day. I don't know a lot about TJ Harden, but I will say this. SMU sometimes gets some amazing prospects. It's a private school in Dallas, and they get a lot of good players there. And sometimes their prospects can be really, really intriguing. Give me a quarterback that you like. One of the controversies is that Dan Orlovsky said that he thinks that Ty Simpson's better than Fernando Mendoza. And It's like people acted like it was like he made some personal affront to humanity. I mean, to me, it's more offensive to say LeBron's better than Jordan, and people say that all the time. And it's like, to kind of go off on that was bizarre. What did you make of it?
I think it was just a guy that had a stance and believed in it, and for whatever reason, the NFL world decided to spit on him and throw him in the gutter. And it was like, wait a minute, like we can all have our opinions on things. And do I think that Simpson's better than Mendoza? No, but that gap is not very wide at all.
Right. It's
a bad quarterback
like
class.
it's hardly like it's like some ridiculous thing. And go
Yeah.
look at the look back at the 21 class, what we thought about Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance and Zach Wilson, who just went to the Saints this week, and Justin Fields, who just went to Kansas City, and all these Mac Jones, who fell to 15 and is now on his third team. And it's like, these quarterbacks, I bet you anything that I'll go further than that. I bet you there's a quarterback in this draft that will wind up being almost as good as, Mendoza and Simpson. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know if it'll be Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Carson Beck, Taylon Green, super athletic. I really like Cole Payton, North Dakota State. I really like Mark Gronowski from Iowa. Really like him. And I really love the kid Jacob Clark from Missouri State. But there's a bunch of decent quarterbacks. Quarterback is a tough position to evaluate. We don't know what we're looking for exactly. We only know if we like it after we see it. And we don't know how guys are going to transition to the NFL. And I just don't, I get it. Mendoza's the overwhelming number one pick. But Orlovsky, it's just a point of view. It's not like Mendoza's, Mendoza was at Cal a couple of years ago. It wasn't like people were walking around going, there is the next awesome quarterback that's going to roam the earth. No, nobody said anything about that at all. I'm not saying that he was a product of Cignetti or that system, but they had a ton of talent there. I mean, I like a lot of their prospects in this draft. So I don't agree. I think Mendoza is probably better than Simpson, but it's not like I'm overwhelming about it. I'll tell you, to me, in my eye, I like Nussmeier. And at the beginning of the year, Nussmeier was thought to be a guy that was also in this group as a surefire number one pick. And he right now is thought to go maybe third round, maybe fourth round.
Yeah.
So I like Garrett. If Mendoza's obviously going one. Simpson's obviously the second best quarterback. He's going two. But if I were just a team that had a bunch of picks and I was taking a flyer, I'd take a flyer on day 2 or maybe the top of day 3 on Garrett Nussmeier from LSU.
Yeah, I think the one guy that he's not going to blow you away, smaller dude, 6'2", 205, undersized. Stats aren't going to blow you away. Had a really bad year last year at Clemson. Is Cade Klubnik.
Yeah,
I think he's the pure touch passer, and if he gets in the right system that has a head coach or a play caller that can make things really simple for him, I think he has the skills to be a one-read quarterback that can have some success at the NFL level. You saw Jimmy G do it. That's exactly what he was for about 4 years, and it worked out for a little bit of time. And there's a lot of guys in this class that have either really good size and terrible mechanics and terrible accuracy. Other guys have middling size and have better NFL traits, but there really isn't that one prospect you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so wowed by. And even on day 3, it's like these guys may have one trait that you're just like, it's worth it, I guess. Let's take a chance on him in round 5 or 6. So I'd go Klubnik. I think we've seen more quarterbacks like him succeed recently in the NFL with the passing offenses we've had with McVay and Shanahan and O'Connell. So on day 3, I think that's the guy I would take of the grouping, which is, again, not saying much because the quarterback class is really bad overall.
Brian Robinson went to the Falcons. Ben Barch went to the Lions. Either of those moves move you at all?
No. I mean, Ben Barch was always hurt, and Brian Robinson, I thought was good. I thought they'd bring him back, but they got like $3 million, so it was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. Richard Sherman's out there saying the Niners should go for Debo. I don't think you need multiple slow receivers. I don't mind Debo if he was willing to play as just the kick returner, but now that you have Christian Kirk, why do you even need that? Christian Kirk's way more explosive.
Yeah. I do have a concern that, let's say round 1 comes by and they go edge rusher, right? Well, round 2 goes by and okay, Raheem's like, I got to get my safety here. They get their safety. You don't pick in round 3, then it's a bunch of 4th round draft picks, and it's like, yeah, you can find receivers there you like, but the odds any of them contribute in year 1, not very high. Shanahan's like, we can always call Debo. And it's like, no, please.
Well,
He's
I mean,
30 years old.
you said that you liked Kevin Coleman.
Yeah,
he's considered to be pick 134.
Okay.
Now he's 5'10", 180, but he's a home run hitter, man. I mean, he's a big time player. You said you like Josh Cameron. He's there at pick 199. So these are day 3 receivers. But you're right. They're gonna have to. You're gonna have to pick the right guy. You have to get a little lucky. You're gonna have to find that right guy. That I'll tell you, the guy that's really intriguing to me though at quarterback is Mark Gronowski. The Iowa kid. He's just. There's a lot to like there. I mean, he's 6'2", he's 230, he's got 10.5-inch hands. He's a mechanical engineering major. He's super smart. MVP of the bowl game, MVP of the All-Star game. Played in an Iowa offense that was kind of pedestrian, but I don't know. There's something to like about Gronowski. I would be very intrigued by him. Somebody told me I should check out the Rutgers kid. I haven't seen him. Ethan Kalakamanus or something like that. I haven't heard him. I haven't checked him out. I'll have to go watch a little bit of his film. All right, let's do this. Let's hit some supers, and then we will bolt for the door. Call it a night. We got this one from Boxing Fans ×4. Would you do a 2 first plus Alfred Collins, and then target either Zane Durant or DeMonte Capehart on day 3? I would, but once again, I think there's a chance that the price tag for Myles Garrett might be more reasonable than you think. They badly want that 27 number 1. And how many teams are willing to give the 27 number 1? Probably not too many. The Niners will give that away, I have a feeling, because they don't need the quarterback. What do they care if there's 8 quarterbacks going in the draft? But that could be a very, very popular pick. The other question is, can you neutralize or negate some of the draft pick package if you included Trent Williams? And what would that then? Then you'd have to have a pick in the first round to get a replacement for Trent Williams. So it's complicated, but I think there's a deal to be had there, and it could be an all-timer. Joseph Ernberg says he became a YouTube member. All right, way to go. Thank you, Joseph Ernberg. Good to see you. Don't see you at the gym anymore. But what can I say? Riz the Fizz. F you, Larry. A bit of a random question, but what was your mock draft from last year? I mean, I did, several mock drafts from last year. The guy that I really liked last year in the draft, I liked Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, and Walter Nolan. And Walter Nolan to me would have been my pick. Why? Because I'm an A&M fan. I watched him at A&M. He was a 5-star defensive tackle. He just has a great knack to rush the passer. I think Walter Nolan at 295 pounds is a significantly more dangerous, dynamic interior rusher than Mikael Williams. But Mikael gives you some first and second down edge setting as a defensive end, but once again, Nolan had some glitches, didn't have as clean of resume as Mikael. He may not be as good a guy as Mikael, but he's a better football player, in my opinion. I would have gone Walter Nolan. I really liked Walter Nolan. I fear that Nolan's going to be a house wrecker. I could see Walter Nolan being for the Cardinals exactly what Jalen Carter is for the Eagles. Exactly. He's that kind of movement guy. He's that kind of badass. He's that kind of athlete. And I could see that. And that's bad news for the rest of the NFC West. All right, let's hit our mentions on our sponsors, and then we will have one big finish, one last question for Sterling, and we'll bolt for the door. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. Emeryville, Corte Madera, third place opening in Petaluma in 2026. Thank you, Novato Chevrolet. Great dealership, family-owned dealership, 50 years in business. Novato Chevrolet. Short wait times, hassle-free service, servicing the North Bay. They do an amazing job. When I buy a Chevrolet, I buy it from Novato Chevrolet. Go see my man David, sales guy there. You'll love him. Also, thanks to Habas Law. Habas Law covers pet adoption fees this Saturday. Don't forget, I should say, San Jose Animal Care Center, right there on Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Every dog, every cat, every bunny, every hamster, every iguana, whatever you're adopting, they're going to pay for it. Walk in with a generous heart, leave with a family. San Jose Animal Care Center on Saturday. Thank you, Habas Law. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Thank you, Habas Law. And if you're up in Sacramento, go check out my new favorite restaurant up there, Alomar Marina. AlomarMarina.net, 5999 Garden Highway. They're open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 7, Sunday, 9 to 4. Get the shrimp tacos, get the lobster roll, the burger. They serve breakfast, they serve lunch. You can dock your boat, walk, it's an amazing spot. You can dock your boat in the marina and then sit there and float in this restaurant that's floating on the water. It's just an amazing spot. So check them out, 5999 Garden Highway, AlomarMarina.net. And also thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, the great Anthony Catania's at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Give him a call. He's at 831-521-5264. Free shipping for all Krug Show fans. So you buy a helmet, you need it shipped to Guam. It's going to cost a ton to ship it. He's paying that shipping for you if you say you're a fan of the Krug Show. So thank you, Anthony Catania. Thank you, Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. Frank Tom Ocean, haircut is looking good, Larry. Thank you. Go Niners. Like that. Tight fade. Told him, he said, "You want to see skin?" I said, "Yeah." Said, give me the tight fade. Give me the tight fade. Anyway, good stuff. Sterling, what do you got cooking the rest of the week? What kind of content are you producing as we get closer to the draft? Tell people about your channel and how they can find you.
Yeah, we dropped our version 1.0 of our 4, maybe 5-part series of mock drafts. It came out a couple days ago. It's on social media as well. And you can listen to it and find it where you ever get your podcasts or on YouTube, simply titled 49ers Access. I think you'll hopefully like the couple picks we had on there. Denzel Boston's involved at 27, so there's a good teaser for you. But version 2.0 comes out next week, one every week leading into draft night, and hopefully we can find ourselves getting more correct as the weeks go on.
Are you falling in love with a particular prospect or two as we go through this process and you watch more and more of the players? Is there anybody that has stood out to you where you're like, you know what? I like this guy, but now I've watched film of this guy extensively and my like is turning to love.
Yeah, it's a guy the Niners probably won't draft. It's Grayson Holden from Oklahoma. That dude is quick. He's a tough SOB and he just wants to get nasty. And it's like, I love Osa Odigizua, what he brings to this defense, but I'm like, man, if round 2's there and you really want to improve that pass rush on the defensive interior, if Grayson Holden is on the board, it's like, I'd be tempted to take him. So that's a guy I'm in love with in round 2, but he's even getting some round 1 hype. So we'll see what happens on draft day.
I'll tell you, the guy that I'm really liking is this interior offensive lineman for Oklahoma. His name is Fabechi Owiwu.
Okay.
And the guy's got 34-inch arms. He played guard, and he didn't allow a single sack or a quarterback hit all year. He only allowed 2 pressures all year. He's considered the best PFF pass blocking guard in the entire draft. 34-inch arms. Then he played center at the East-West Shrine and totally dominated. And you can just see him in the run game. He blows people off the ball in the run game. Fabechi Owiwu. There you go. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. For Sterling, I'm Larry. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks to all of our sponsors. The links are in the description for all of our sponsors. If you want to support the show, support the sponsors and shop the sponsors. Thanks to Sterling. Thanks to all of you. Until next time, peace. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 with Damon Bruce, 10:45 tomorrow with Chase Sr. A big Friday. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get it.